As you heard over the weekend at Coachella, there was a man that was arrested. The police chief there said that he believed that he and his men helped prevent a third assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, when I heard this story, it didn't make any sense to me. Why didn't it make sense? Because I know this person who was, I guess you could say, caught, but it didn't make any sense to me because I know him. And even though we've gone back and forth and probably gone back and forth too much with personal insults, I never thought that this man was a violent criminal. This is a very bizarre story. I wanted to get it straight from him. His name is Vem Miller. He actually ran for office a few years ago in Las Vegas, and he is nice enough to join us on the show right now. Vem, I do appreciate you being here, sir. How are you?
Good, good. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Vem. I do appreciate you being here. All right, so let me start off the interview by saying this. We've gone back and forth with personal insults. We have a history. However, I never thought that you were responsible for an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. This story never made any sense to me, and I said that on the air, and I want to be clear on that. Can you tell me what the last week has been like for you, and then maybe we can go in what happened? I mean, this has kind of probably been a crazy week for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, just for the viewers, and Brian, like you and I don't get along very well. Like, I mean, just in full transparency,
Right.
we don't agree on much. We've had a lot of arguments, and I think you called me a Nazi at one point, and I know it probably was an emotional reaction to that moment. But I do think it was very important to come on the show because, frankly, what happened, firstly, I have no qualms about going on to adversarial interviews. And what happened was just absolutely insane. And I think validates some of the concerns I've had throughout the years about, media conduct and all that. I say fake news, you might disagree. But I think what we discovered over this event was a perfect example of fake news, really, where essentially what happened was everything that was said about me, and you could find the original versions of the story, you could find the press conference with the sheriff. And by the way, we're both Republicans, and both of us claim to be constitutional Republicans, although I think in terms of the sheriff, I think that's going to prove to be words as opposed to actions. Essentially, the long and short is that I did what I always do, which is declare that I have guns in the back of my truck. They're lawfully obtained guns, and that essentially turned into an arrest, accusations of being there to assassinate the president. A lot of everything that was said is totally incorrect, and now what's happening is then even the mainstream media itself is realizing that this is all lies. In terms of how this has affected me, well, I could tell you, like, I because my car was also impounded, unlawfully so, I would say, but it was impounded. We could, that's not a big kind of issue of concern right now. I had to go and buy clothes because all my clothing is there, and so I go to the neighborhood store of where I'm staying at, which, by the way, is an undisclosed location, and I'll explain why it's an undisclosed location. And I'm walking around, and you've probably seen this movie, like The Fugitive, with Harrison Ford, and and he's an innocent man, but everywhere he goes, people are kind of looking up at newspapers and kind of, looking up at him like, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
it's this killer walking around, and
Yeah.
that's what I started to experience. And then
Yeah.
following that, a girl that I was dating, like, broke up with me by text message,
Oh,
and
I'm
I
sorry to
was,
hear that. That's
no,
not good. Let's try
I'm,
to go through this though,
yeah.
Vam. I sympathize with you there.
Hmm.
Were you ever put in handcuffs? Were you
Yeah,
ever
yeah, yeah,
okay? So you were put
instantly.
in. Okay, so you were put in handcuffs. Did you spend any time behind bars, for lack of a better
Yeah,
term?
yeah.
Okay, so how long were you behind bars until they released you?
I mean, I was apprehended around 3:30, and I left the prison. And this is when I say apprehension. First, I'm behind in a police car in this like
Mhm.
sauna where it's like scorching, and then
Right.
3.5 hours there. Go and like altogether the entire ordeal probably lasted 10 hours or so.
Wow,
I'd say
that's a long
four,
time. That's a long
four,
time.
yeah, 4 hours, 4.5 of that
Okay,
in,
next
in a prison
question.
cell.
The reports were that you were released on $5,000 bond. Is there any truth to that, or is that not true?
No, they just gave me a ticket misdemeanor, and really the discrepancy there was I've never been a gun owner. I'm from California, but I never owned guns in California. I only owned guns once I started producing content on the America Happens Network, which is my brand and my
Right.
business partner's brand, where we do uncensored media and we're exposing all kinds of creepy politicians, and we don't really choose sides in that. If you were to tell me there's a like this perfect example here, there's a Republican here that now I'm going head to head against in a
Yeah.
lawsuit, which is the sheriff.
Let's talk
And
about that. Let's talk about
one quick
sheriff.
sec.
Yeah.
One quick sec. Death
Sure.
threats came down the pipeline when I
Yeah.
started producing this content, and that's when I purchased the gun. So I was aware of the Nevada laws and the two discrepancies there, which are misdemeanors. In Nevada, you're allowed to have 14 bullets in your gun. In
Right.
California, it's capped at 10. In Nevada,
Understood.
you're allowed to have your mag loaded. In California, you have to have the mag and gun
Mhm.
separated, and those were the only two things I was cited on. No bail whatsoever.
So I do want to talk about the sheriff. I'm certainly on your side on this, but I want to go through this step by step and clear up misinformation, if it is misinformation.
Yeah,
Did you have self-made fake VIP Donald Trump passes? Is that true or
No,
false?
no. In fact, I was sent accidentally. I think I was supposed to be sent one special invite. I was sent four, and I've showed the evidence of that. I put it actually. If you go to not Vem Miller at Twitter, you'll see that I've posted at least one of the special. And just to be clear, it's a special invite because the VIP passes were actually ones
Why
that
are they saying they're fake? Where's that coming from?
these are all every single thing that came out of the sheriff's is a lie. Every
So
single
okay,
thing.
so you didn't have fake VIP passes. We'll start
Mhm.
there. I was
Mhm.
I saw reports that you had a self-made plate on the back of your car. Is there any truth to that?
I'm going to clarify everything right now in saying this. Every allegation that was put out there is a criminal, felonious allegation. Yet
Okay.
I was released with no bail, just a citation, which is like almost like a speeding ticket or whatever. And
Mhm.
so everything that's been said, if I had now, they were searching deep and wide to try to get me on some kind of felony to actually get me on a crime. There was nothing. So if anything, in very important. Sheriff's job, lawful, unlawful. That's it. That's it. Very black and white. So if it is unlawful, I would be in jail. I would have been cited for it.
So
If
you were
it's
just cited for a misdemeanor? Is that it?
yeah,
What exactly were you cited for? Just a misdemeanor?
yeah, just having 14 bullets in this Glock instead
Right.
of the 10 cap, and having my mag in the Glock.
So it wasn't even necessarily an illegal gun. And I'm not a big gun person like you. You're saying there were just too many bullets in the gun for the state of California. Is that my understanding?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. All right. So you're released. I want to go through this with you now, the process. You're 10 hours. You're saying you were, this whole ordeal took 10 hours. You get out of prison or jail or whatever you want to call it, and you have no idea about the press conference, right? You have no idea that it's the police, that the sheriff, right, had made statements that he believed he and his men stopped an attempted third assassination, because you had
Yeah.
no idea. You're behind bars. So the
Yeah.
second you get out of bars, I'm sure your phone is blowing up. Vem, what was your first reaction when you had heard that the police chief had held a press conference and told the media, and all of a sudden you're a national story, that somehow this was an attempted third assassination of Donald Trump? What went through your mind at that point?
So that I was released at 1:30 a.m. and I want to be clear. There was a lot of I didn't find out till the morning. So what happened was that I don't have my car, I don't have my clothes. I'm looking for a place to sleep. I'm hungry. I haven't ate since for 13 hours, 13 and a half hours at that point. I want to find out where my car is. So essentially, I got an Uber, got some water and beef jerky from a 7-Eleven, traveled to the tow place, realized it was closed, realized that there was no way to get inside this tow place, and I'm not getting my car. Found out that because it's a weekend, I won't be able to get it till Tuesday. Then traveled from motel to hotel because everything was booked because of this Trump rally, until frankly, I found what I describe as one of those crummy 2-hour joints where people go for sex. And funny enough, I spent this is the hilarious part. I'm like lying in bed, and there's there's just a marathon of sex happening. And I don't know, that dude, like, he deserves like an award, because that was like 4 hours of the most aggressive stuff I've ever heard, that kept me up
Oh
till
no.
like 6 in the morning, and I had a few hours sleep, and that's kind of what it is. The
Wow.
next morning I go to the Mexican place to get basically some tacos for breakfast, and like that's when I'm like looking at my phone, and I'm like realizing what's happened, and it
Ben,
was
why do you think the sheriff said what he said? Do you think it was a situation where he wanted to make him and his staff look really good? He wanted this to be a national story. What do you think was the reasoning why? And I believe you, because if this was an attempted assassination attempt, they wouldn't have released you several hours later. That's why it
yeah.
doesn't make any sense. What do you think his reasoning was for saying something like that? And to my knowledge, has he retracted it?
He's basically said that like it was untrue, that I made verbal admissions that I was here to kill X, Y, and Z. I won't even say that sentence. He's kind of backtracked on a lot of anything that had criminal significance, right? I've done a lot of research because I run the America Happens Network. We have access to a lot of investigative journalists and people all around the country. Essentially, the sheriff has aspirations, political aspirations. I think he wants to run for governor. I think California, and especially Coachella, is not where Trump normally does a rally. I think it was an opportunity for him to, puff his chest and appear like some kind of hero, so he could be a shoo-in for the Republican candidate of whatever office he wants to run for.